who didn't have the best performance last time he had the champion, but has looked good on it previously.
I don't think you can really judge Tempt on his most recent Talia game, given that it's been his most played this year. It's also his best performing champion. Famously got a pentakill on it in spring. On 7-14, the bans so far haven't seen too much change, although I imagine picks and bans for Game 1 will influence and impact what we will see later in this series. Will we just see the same 3 bans on red side, those seen consistently? As the Kallista's the one that I think teams have been trying to play around letting open and then being heavily punished for.
And you can see MVP, actually, I really like what they've done, is just get rid of the comfort that BBQ have displayed. All of these champions are sort of maximum comfort for the 3 that they've targeted. As BBQ think about what they want to give away, as the Thresh is actually opted in for. So Kallista, like you were talking about, open for Maha to pick if he wants to grab that one away. And I like the Thresh respect given to Max because, man, he looked good against Samsung with that champion.
We may even see Xayah taking its higher priority over Kallista.
Potentially, yeah.
Or looking elsewhere and then taking Xayah as an answer to a Kallista pick from the likes of Ghost. But they're just going to go tier list here and draft the Kallista. Max going to be one of the big people empowered by this. And maybe we'll get creative on the engaged supports. Ooh. Tanks are the word. Tanks. And tank supports like Blitzcrank have already been potentials in recent weeks. So wait to see what Max will do on the support front.
And it doesn't even need to be a support champion as well, Papa Smithy. It could be absolutely anything that they could pick for the bottom lane, as Gragas is locked in for Bless, has been pretty powerful on 7.14 thus far. More big bodies in there, and Gragas certainly has a big body. As Bless is thinking about what he wants to grab, as Jhin would be an interesting one. Haven't seen him on this patch thus far in the LCK.
He actually is really powerful because of the targeted buffs to lethality, but not powerful against tanks. So it's kind of that weird duality where his laning is stronger, his early game is very powerful. Serrated Dirk is an even bigger power spike on him than it's been in many patches, but then he can't damage tanks. So it's the weird spot where people felt the impact of 7-14 early in solo queue. The Dusk Blades were coming out, everyone was exploding, and then people like who was locked in for Beyond, like Maokai, started coming on, and then people like, wait, okay, the utility in the laning is still good for the Jhin, but they don't put a speck of damage on a Maokai, as Maokai will be a flex pick. ADD has been playing it in solo queue, so maybe it'll be top lane, and well, they see a Jhin, and it's double tanks, Atlas.
Yep, and they also see the fact that it's 7-1-4, and it's definitely going to be the double tanks. We saw KT utilize a composition very similar, very, very well, and it seemed like their opponent actually could not do anything in that game number 3. It was against Samsung as well.
I'm actually excited to see a comp like this because it looks like it's probably going to be Kallista and 4 tanks, right? Which is what we saw from KT Rolster. They were able to win that game, but their early game is so strong, maybe that's not a surprise. If that was on 7-13, we'd be talking about run out of damage, it's only Kallista for damage. Yet now we're with the super tanks who are even stronger than before, so we'll get to maybe see a run for our money of how strong late game tanks with Thornmail are if they have lower damage. So I'm still going to be on the 7-13 side of the coin in terms of you need to be able to pilot these comps very effectively early to get most value out of them, but 7-14 is a new ball game in many ways.
Now MVP, they've got a lot of options because we know that Max plays probably both of these champions that have been picked up. Probably not Kallista support. That's the only thing that I would probably say. As now BBQ have a lot of things that they have to try and ban away. At the moment, having a look towards that mid lane and giving Max a little bit of respect for his Rakan. Kallista Rakan also pretty disgusting and was something BBQ have felt the wrath of previously.
And even with the nerfs to Galio, effectiveness recently cannot really be in doubt. The strong picks against it have been up in the air. Corki is what BBQ settle on, and I think it'll do a decent job. And what we have seen in Korea, more so than other regions, you know, some regions were playing some Trundle. There's been a lot of Trundle recently. When you see a blue side Trundle ban with Maokai already locked in, it does seem like ADD, like in solo queue, will probably be jumping onto the Maokai.
Yeah, points towards the top side of the map as Alistar is locked in. Alistar Jhin, heck of a lot of CC towards the bottom side of the map. See what MVP respond with as they round out their composition with the last 2 picks. And we'll see whether Max is going to be the one playing the Galio or anything else.
Bit of a blocker pick to the Blitzcrank that if it was a squishier support, I think would have probably been the avenue that Max took. Don't want to be hooking in an Alistar, but Jhin and Corki are both tasty opportunities.
Yeah.
Jumping on the Rex side is not a surprise. And we will see it,
there we
Atlas.
go.
Nice prophecy from you on the turret coming back. BBQ have played Tark once this season, but the Tark buff's alive on patch 7.14, and guess what? It's another tank.
It is, and it's a lot of healing as well. If you met the buffs to the Q are actually a pretty big deal.
But it is super, super no damage, Atlas. We are really nowhere near any damage outside the other 4.
The Taric auto attacks, dude. In lane early, they do a lot of damage.
Now we're looking for the last pick here from BBQ. Cho'Gath will be locked in. Okay, first game of the day, first Cho'Gath from BBQ. Cho'Gath will be locked in. Okay, first game of the day, first Cho'Gath. We saw 1 in 5 games yesterday, 1 in game 1 here. Cho'Gath could be top or in the jungle. Expecting to be a top laner for Crazy, though. The tank meta is back, and we might be seeing Maokai versus Cho'Gath in 2017.
Yeah, this is severely tank meta, Papa Smithy. We just don't want to look at the top lane at all. We're back to it. It's so long ago. I'd put it out of my mind.
So the question is, do we try to radio our OGN contacts and ask them to replace the damage dealt graph with the damage taken graph?
Oh, that
because we could see some interesting damage taken with this many tanks. People are going to be living a damn long time.
And thankfully, we have access to those match histories as well. We can check out that damage taken graph towards the end of the game. And I know I'm going to be Googling it like you wouldn't believe, hopping over to lolesports.com. But, so that's going to be that. Vorpal Spikes with a little bit of a buff for the old Cho'Gath as well on this patch. Does a lot more damage if you can utilize the time window that the cooldown now offers.
At the end of the day, MVP, very strong early game comp. The late game, even true damage won't puncture through the ultimate, but BBQ have more damage, and that's usually means more consistent options in the late game.
Yeah, we'll see whether MVP is going to continue their onslaught or whether it's going to be BBQ fighting back after a difficult previous week. A lot of questions to be answered. Let's get on to the Rift. Okay, fans out in force, Papa Smithy. We have a small band here, but look at the devotion to BBQ. These guys love some chicken.
They got some jerseys, which is cool. I actually haven't seen the BBQ jerseys for sale. Africa recently had their jerseys on sale. You can find those through Google right now, but always hard to find LCK merch.
When they walked in, I actually thought it was the BBQ sub roster. I was like, wow. I could really go a BBQ sub right now.
It's fair to say. I believe that's SKT Jin being worn by Ghost as well.
Yeah, bit of a shout-out. Oh, see, this is the only Taric skin you should ever use. Whenever there's people like, I'm a lifeguard, it's great. No, there is only one.
I mean, but Pool Party is an LCK caster meme, so I can give it a pass.
It's true. Like, I understand. However, pink Taric, man, it is so glorious.
Armor of the 5th Age.
Mm-hmm. And I just love how, like... It's not exactly... It's a more masculine name than it probably should be.
I've got good news for you.
Good.
Some people are sitting there saying Tank's Resident Sleeper. I'm excited about Doran's Ring Jing PogChamp.
Oh, yes!
Yes, it's back.
Once again.
The Teddy Special. Mm-hmm. So the theory here, guys, is that because there's total AD scaling on Jin, extra ability power actually gives you more damage on your Q and more pushing power at level 1, level 3, early laning than if you had gone attack damage. So it's actually pretty powerful in that regard. Sure, late game, you don't get as much value. Not all his abilities scale off of ability power. But for level 1, which is where Jin loses, why we often see Boots for pot, because it's not a better option for Jin. The Doran's Ring ability power actually helps him in the early game more than any other level 1 buy, and you get the mana sustain as well.
Yeah. Not only that, but your captive audience has like a 1-to-1 scaling or something like that. Real silly. So
yes, the captive audience that you scale.
You stand on that. Whew.
You don't get it till level 8.
Yeah, you definitely don't. But still, if you wanted to put a cheeky point into it.
Oh. That's the only sort of point you put into it, a cheeky one.
That is a cheeky one. That's just showing you're a hipster. I take captive audience level 2. Oh, yeah. Sounds really, really bad.
How's the Depths of Bronze suiting you, Atlas?
Oh, it's just great. Just really having a brilliant time. Anyway, ADD and Crazy, this is where we should be talking about the Depths of Bronze, honestly, because there's nothing more interesting than Depths of Bronze, especially when the only other option to talk about is a tank battle on the top side of the map.
I mean, tanks everywhere.
With Beyond in the jungle.
I feel like we should say tanks very much to Riot Games for this particular patch. We were spoiled yesterday, Atlas, because we had Longzhu and KT who trust their early game players long enough to still go for the pressure top laners like the Jace, still draft power. I guess we should have expected when we got 8th versus 9th place, the tanks will be in full force because it's easier to play tanks. Why not go for the reliable tanks? You can ARAM in the mid game and turret dive aplenty. There's a lot of power in tanks with the changes in itemization and subtle other changes in 7.14, so if the tanks are more reliable, you can't really blame people for drafting tanks.
And it also suits both of these teams as well. I mean, BBQ and MVP have been getting behind their AD carries more and more in recent weeks anyway, regardless of this move over to 7.14. So giving them all of the ability to do damage just makes some sense. Yeah, hopefully we keep looking towards the top side proximity. I thought that hopefully someone was listening. Not happening this time. Now Ian just going to shove that wave in, probably buy a couple of extra items.
First max on the Cho'Gath will be the Vorpal spikes. They're nerfed in 7.15, which patch notes just went live today. But the max HP damage and slow make them really good for trading.
Oh yeah.
Also, you don't have to worry about your mana costs as much. Q and W, a lot more mana intensive than the 30 mana cost of the spikes. That will be the first max there from the Cho'Gath. Item build is kind of up in the air. Could see a lot of Righteous Glories this patch from the tanks, as Righteous Glory is very powerful right now, and everyone wants to engage.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense on the likes of the Maokai as well, just with what he wants to do. Unfortunately, we won't have the Kitty Wave,
out of mana,
which I'm really upset about.
That's true.
I want the Kitty Wave. I thought that everyone would be using that skin. Dang it.
Seems like ADD is a hipster.
Yeah.
Going for the goalkeeper, I believe it is.
Yes, that's exactly the one. And I don't want to say the name of the sport that he's representing as well, because no matter which way I go, I could get in trouble.
Say football.
Yeah, do you think that football is just the best way to do it? I'm Australian, man. Football's confusing to me.
So the way I understand it is that Europeans care a lot about you saying football, and Americans call it soccer but don't really care if you call it football, so you just go with the side that of least resistance.
Yep, just try and cause as little offense as possible as the Dazzle landing onto Totoro, who answers back. Decent damage onto Maha, goes down to about half health. Max will have some heals as Ian goes aggressive onto Tempt at the same time. That buy really doing him some good work. Negatron Cloak actually coming out as first item. See what that turns into. Adaptive Helm has been an option against the likes of Corki.
Although I kind of nod my head at Tempt, being like, well, if everyone's a tank, I'm going to do some investment banking.
Yeah, makes
some
sense.
Jump and buy a Cull, happily farm my way to my Trinity Force.
Beyond finds Bless, but doesn't seem too worried about it. He's just swimming around. Under the ground, will take down this ward, and there's nothing Bless is going to do about it with 0 mana.
Different item build from Beyond, who's actually gone Tiamat first, when the last 2 times we've seen him on Rek'Sai, he was preferring the Balmy Cinder after the Balmy Cinder buffs on patch 7.13, so a little bit of dueling power. We're not going to see too many longswords built this game outside of Ghost, most likely, so you take him where you can get him.
Yeah, he should be able to make up for it, though, Ghost. He has got a build that involves a lot of longswords if he's going to be going towards that lethality.
It's pretty cool.
8 of them will be built.
It's true. I mean, maybe even more.
Yeah, actually, definitely more.
Armor penetration is going to be necessary in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Caulfield's Warhammer and the Serrated Dirk is going to be coming out a lot.
Oh, everywhere is... See, look, it's so much worse! Oh, so much worse. I'm just imagining kitty cats, Papa Smithy.
The Maokai ult speed is so funny.
It's so funny. Just the way it looks as well. It's just perfect. Good work, right?
And when you see that clip, it's why it's not surprising that when it first came online, people are like, well, this is a useless spell. And in those sort of scenarios, it looks pretty silly, it looks pretty useless. But we've learned recently by watching other regions, one of the reasons the ARAM meta, as people call it, has come back is you just ult a turret, and it's just kind of like when you used to throw an AP Gragas cast behind a turret, or an Equalizer, or a Weaver's Wall. You can't just sit at the turret and defend it when the slow-moving 2-second route is coming in your direction, and thus the power is more in the turret pushing than necessarily, especially the 1v1, where it is categorically weakest.
Exactly. Do like the fact that it roots for longer as well if it hits further away. Things like that means that if you run away from it, you're committed to running away from it, because if you turn around, you're probably just going to be standing still until you're dead. Maha takes a big bounce, as does Max. That should be easy for them just to clean up underneath this turret. You can see already Ghost, though, utilizing the Doran's Ring to full effect, giving himself about 12 CS advantage.
Let's focus on the skill order from Max if we actually do get a toggle over to his skill order. Speaking to supports in Korea, the big story is you take 2 points in Q early. Basically, a lot of the changes and buffs of Tarek around his heal.
Yeah.
And the big takeaway message you guys should know is that your passive now, which is the 2 auto attacks with 100% attack speed, each proc of it gives you a healing, a healing proc. So basically what you want to do is get at least 2 points in it, because then you have 2 procs available. You start with 1, 2, and then 3. And because you want to be able to get the full value out of your passive, when you trade, get the double auto in, you get the full heal available if you have 2 points in Q. So you lose a lot of effectiveness if you only have 1 point in Q as Tarek, but you want to max Dazzle first anyways.
Yeah. Make sure you're getting as much stun for your buck.
40 extra damage at level 9 is nothing to sniff at, for
hey,
sure.
That's true. You were saying this was a no-damage comp, Papa Smithy. Tarek buffs here to save that one's life.
40 damage from a spell from Tarek in the late game. Very relevant.
Feels so good. Okay, and looking to Justice punch his way back in onto temp. But looks like, yeah. This is a tank meta, Papa Smithy. So he can just take a million auto attacks and a bunch of spells and just wander away casually towards a blue buff. Beyond is setting up for him. Waiting for them wins war. There it is, all too easy. And we'll head back towards that mid lane, pick up that minion wave. But falling behind our MVP as far as farm is concerned, and it's spelling about 1,000 gold lead for BBQ. Good news.
And when you think back to the Deft as the Kalista only damage dealer complicated around, remember that Deft was 5-0 in the mid game and was disproportionately ahead on the Kalista. This Kalista is behind in CS and gone for the Ninja Tabby first. Also wants to be a tank. He's role-playing as a tank right now.
Also had a pretty engage-heavy bottom lane as well to complement their ability to get ahead in that early game. Right now, Max is just looking fabulous down there, as now we're looking for Crazy. The CC's coming in, tanking the turret is ADD, but Crazy's just so tanky himself. Oh, that's a lot of turret shots that ADD took. This is what happens when you bring a lot of tanks up there, and it's better than Beyond tanking it up, I guess.
Okay, close to feast range, though, is bot lane. Oh, the Deadly Flourish misses.
Yeah, unfortunate. Not as deadly this time around, Papa Smithy, as Totoro takes a lot of damage. Bless now looking to start off this dragon because, you know, why not? Ain't much else happening around the map.
But you'll be happy to know that a tank meta is also often a play-by-play meta, as you get really long fights to call.
That's true. We'll have a lot to talk about. They're hitting each other. They're hitting each other. They're still hitting each other.
You have a long time to work up the aggression. Okay,
yeah,
Ian does flash.
They're trying to pick this one up. Ultimate does go down as Maha is being protected. Heroic Entrance comes in, and now he can't take any damage. Explosive Cast a little bit too early, and that means it's not going to do any of the damage. Ian now looking for his way in. His Tempt is going to fall down. First blood goes to Beyond, as now BBQ chasing after ADD, but he's keeping 2 people busy. BBQ can't make their way back in. In the end, it's going to be an MVP victory unless Ghost can find something here, as Maha taking a lot of damage, but Beyond will save his life. And yes, that is very, very dramatic, Ghost, but we're not going to be able to find the kill with too many big bodies.
Yeah, no Deathfire Touch after the nurse. It was Warlords from Ghost. If it was Deathfire Touch, even after the nerf, I think he might have actually killed Maha, who was on a sliver of health. Really long fight. BBQ caught out. MVP used their flashes. You might think it's all over, but MVP fights stronger early. They have Fate's Call. Maha largely DPS'd out the Gragas ultimate right at the tail end of the Cosmic Radiance, meaning the Callisto doesn't go down. But the base values are higher from MVP at this point in the game. One of the times where they'd rather fight, and they do get a small advantage, even if it is predictably a long tank fight.
Yeah.
Watch Maha here. The second shot hits. He would have died to Deathfire Touch.
Yes, he would have. He was down. That was single-digit health, approximately. Now Beyond, he's going to take his shot at getting this dragon. Bit of extra regen seems to be the aim of the game here for both of these teams. They're both looking for it. Ian once again getting turned on. Fair bit of damage, but honestly, he's not taking much of it. That's just going to be stolen away. Bless says thank you very much for the leash, and will now try and get himself out. Deadly Flourish once again just going to try and stop the assault. As Bless taking a lot of damage, but they just can't follow it up as MVP just walk away, tail between the legs.
Yeah, BBQ had more members, rotated them faster, and in the end of the day, it was a smite battle won by Bless. He was just holding on to his ultimate. He didn't want to use it, wanted to have it to threaten and engage. Because they see Explosive Cast, they can play a bit more aggressively in bot lane. So getting an ult out was the best reward they were going to get in that particular scenario. And We return to a 300 gold lead and a Drake to BBQ, but nothing else to speak of.
Yep, not too much. Deadly Flourish is going to miss, but the Headbutt Pulve does knock Maha up. Still, they're taking a fair bit of damage. Unbreakable Will up there for Totoro, so he's not going to fall down.
Also got a bit of a buff in the damage reduction. Does scale up more on this patch, so he'll be tankier earlier. Good stuff.
Yeah, always good to be tankier in this meta. Means that your flavor of the month capacity is certainly up there.
We'll see plenty of Kog'Maws as a result as the patch goes on, I would estimate. I wonder if we'll see any Vaynes.
Ooh.
I'm sure Reckless is considering his options in EU, but...
I'm looking at China, man.
Oh, Imp's
Uzi's going to be bringing it back as well. There's lots of Vayne players over there.
Uzi and Imp, as you say. Big chance of that.
The Dream. Okay. Rupture going to land multiple times here as Crazy's just gone nuts onto ADD. The Bramble Smash going to at least create some distance as Bless probably turned up a little bit too late, but we're going to look towards the bottom side as Maha's just going to get punched by a cow. The extra damage doing some work there as well as Max. He has to run the heck away. Looking glorious while he does it, but there's the curtain call. He's getting slowed down, and he just walks against the wall. It's not where you want to be as boom goes the dynamite. Ghost's going to be able to pick up that kill. BBQ, massive power on the bottom side, and that is a 2 for nothing.
Yeah, BBQ's duo lane has been playing better than MVP's over the course of this season. Obviously, MVP had a great series last time out against Samsung, but BBQ just heavily outplaying MVP. Max didn't have exhaust as that fight started, had the Cosmic Radiance, but didn't use it. Was confident, I guess, that Maha wouldn't die. Maha also didn't use Fate's Call during it. They had a lot of options to try to outplay or go even, but they lose the maximum as a double kill is basically donated to BBQ.
Yeah, Max didn't even use his flash to get out of the way of the captive. It was almost like they wanted to die. Interesting. Might have been method to the madness, as Maha is going to at least clear out this minion wave, try and get himself back up to parity, but not quite there. 34 CS is going to be the lead, and Ghost has his Dusk Blade already completed. That is 6 longswords done, Papa Smithy.
But more to come.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, another small factor why Jhin is stronger is that his build path famously when lethality was strong was, even if I'm forced to back, I can buy a couple of long swords and get more power, not gated by zeals or larger items. So when you can thrift shop so effectively, you can do things. Okay, teleport's being used.
Yeah, MVP looking for the first brick here as the teleport will complete. Beyond taking a lot of damage, tunnels his way out, and now Temp just looking for it onto Maha. Rocket not going to land there, but BBQ now wanting to follow up. Ian just casually saunters his way in towards this bottom side of the map as they want to push this wave towards the tower, but there is enough wave clear, and there's the turn onto the Galio. Maha pretty safe towards the back end of this fight as Ghost at about half health, but now Maha's in trouble. Ultimate will go off. No, it just didn't get put down onto the Callista. Unfortunate stuff as Max will get headbutt pulved. The heroic entrance not going to be enough. There's now both teleports going off. Bless flashes his way out as now ADD, the attack of the roots. There they go. And he will have to flash his way out of here underneath the turret, and BBQ still in full control. Honestly, MVP didn't quite manage to execute whatever they were trying to do.
Yeah, Maha once again doesn't use Fate's Call, and that's because he wanted to be saved by the Cosmic Radiance. But it's all about the overlapping circles, Atlas, and awkwardly Maha was outside of both circles. Didn't get
Wasn't in the Venn diagram.
Exactly, the Venn diagram. He was not in the center like he was supposed to be. And the end result was just assassinated by a full tank Gragas for some reason. Kill goes over to BBQ, and MVP are playing the Callista bot lane about as bad as possible.
About the worst that we've seen ever.
They're 35 CS behind with a Callista lane, which already is awkward, but they've just, between the two of them, not been able to use their kits effectively, and they've lost the maximum when it should have been a lot closer between the two bot lanes.
Yeah. To put it frankly, they just have not done their buttons almost at all in a lot of these cases, and that was an unforced error from Maha. He could have just stood in the Cosmic Radiance and survived. That's just the long and short of it.
I like to think he's saving his Fate's Call for late game.
Perfect. I like that. That's the sort of optimism that you need as a play-by-play. Do you want to swap roles?
This patch might actually, we might need to mid-game when you like run out of breath after the 15th 2-minute team fight.
Need all the help that I can get. It's crazy. Yells at some creeps. Gentleman Cho'Gath. Shout-outs to one of the best Cho'Gath skins.
It's a bit of an awkward factor for MVP. We're talking about the no damage, and to some degree the no damage will be something to talk about, but consider that Ghost is really far ahead on his lethality build, and MVP is stacking magic resist, which is largely what you need against everyone but Ghost. So Ghost having gold is the worst possible thing for the side of MVP because he does a lot of damage right now.
Yep, he's actually doing the damage to the turret at the moment. Now going to turn on to Ian, who gets booped back into his team. Okay, surviving for a very long time, though, is Tempt. He's in trouble. Curtain Call comes down as Ian... Okay, he's on walkabout at the moment as there's the Jhin getting turned on. Beyond wants to find him. The ultimate's going to come out, but he flashes back to his team. Good timing, won't die to the sapling as now BBQ get themselves out, and Ian did die on the back end. The Gargoyle did not last as long as he would have liked.
The grouping there wasn't fantastic from either team. Jhin almost assassinated by a Maokai in the backline, but was able to flash back into his team, still had his summoners available. No chance for a Fate's Call or a Cosmic Radiance once again in that particular engagement. Everyone backs away, and only kill of the fight is Ian going down.
Yeah, Ian lasted a very long time. Remember, his health bar started going down underneath his turret about a minute ago. BBQ are going to try and get the Cloud Drake. Will make their second as they have the Rainy Day Dragons to start off this game. And okay,
I guess Bless was going to run out of duration on the Rift Herald, so just used it about as suboptimally as possible.
Look at him casually wandering towards the mid lane.
This is going to be another one of those 0 damage Rift Heralds.
Yep. Oh no, it got an auto attack off onto Beyond, sort of.
Did it? I couldn't tell by his health bar. It's still full.
I'm actually pretty sure that that was a net buff to MVP, giving them 25 gold and doing 0 for BBQ. Bad news.
It is 8th versus 9th.
But this is the MVP that beat Samsung, and BBQ are now beating them. So, you know, it's theoretically a better news story than you'd otherwise think. I feel like we need to be giving these guys a little bit more of a hard time for getting things wrong based on that.
I like your higher expectations, to some degree deserved, because it was a good performance against Samsung, but we wonder what MVP would do on the new patch. They take their best example from KT, and sure, it is largely the comp that KT won so easily against Samsung Galaxy with in Game 2 yesterday. But if you get behind with this comp, and if Kalista falls behind in particular, you will have significant problems as the game goes on. And Kalista's been about 30 CS or more behind the Jhin for the majority of the early game.
Yes. Thankfully, that lead has not extended too far, if I could utilize some pretty generous optimism. But now Tempt has moved towards the top side of the map, just wants to push down this turret up here. And it's going to be Ghost meeting him there as well. So BBQ just rotating around. You mentioned this earlier on, that that's what they want to be doing here in the early game, extending this lead as much as possible. And it's already hit the tune of 5,000, which is definitely decent for 20 minutes.
Abyssal Mask on both teams. Galio, always going to be one that would love that item when it was reworked to include the Catalyst, but the Gragas here from Bless has it as well. Going to be very relevant given the Cho'Gath and specifically the Corki. Going to get value out of the 10% bonus damage. You know it's a tank meta when Corki's best boots are Merc Treads. Doesn't need to think about maximizing damage against squishies. There's really no squishies to speak of.
Yep. This is what happens when you get a tank meta as well. I mean, an engagement starts, and you don't really start talking about it until the tank has gone to about a third health. And that's when you could probably start getting a bit excited. But and there was just a bit of a slug.
And when there's things like Cosmic Radiance, damage reduction from Galio, that doesn't happen that quickly, Atlas.
Yep, I get baited pretty hard when it comes to tank metas.
I mean, the OGN Legion loves us talking about mini Nintendo 64s and our favorite Call of Duty game. Maybe we'll be able to do that for 20 seconds of a team fight.
Yeah, exactly.
We can reclaim our time.
I think that we could almost do it like a challenge to ourselves. How many topics can we get through in one team fight, whilst also talking about everything relevant in the team fight at the same time?
This is the bounty given to us by patch 7.14.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I just really like the positive attitude as well that we've sort of spun over towards it.
Look, it's a broadcast, so if your glass isn't half full about the teams you're casting or the patch, you got to find somewhere else to fill up your glass. And
exactly.
That's apparently at vintage consoles.
And Call of Duty. Thank goodness. Okay, ADD. Gonna Arcane Smash. I'm gonna call it Arcane Smash. As he's gonna go wide of the old Phosphorus Bomb. Can head back towards the wave and clear that one out. Just so used to talking about top laners that don't have a big health bar. And so I was like, oh, let's talk about the abilities because he might die. No, we won't. Oh, dear. Even when we're talking about it, I still just can't pick it up.
Maybe maybe the wards will be interesting, as the wards will tell us where the tanks can walk.
Oh yes, Season 2 world.
But unfortunately, because the tanks are so tanky, they can also put down wards and not die face-checking brushes. So wards become less interesting as a result.
At least Dancing Grenade will always be interesting, because when it tries to get to a minion really far away and it goes really high in the air, that is super entertaining.
But unfortunately, one of the biggest purveyors of knocking people really high in the air, Cho'Gath, had that bug fixed about 2 years ago. He no longer has the hilarious knock-ups. The knockbacks are happening. ADD taking damage.
We may actually need to talk about his death relatively soon, as Sap Magic was doing some work. BBQ are the first ones to respond as heroic entrance comes down, and not happening. Good God.
He became really close to death, though, Atlas.
Yeah! He did some almost nearly dying, which is what we probably shouldn't get used to.
Do we hit the 9 for the almost die on the 10 hype scale?
Yeah, if we were going to be holding up scorecards, I would give it at least a 9 to a 9.5.
Oh, this game.
Oh, now they're trying to kill another tank. So what did you do on the weekend?
We're really good at custom patch 714. Oh, dear. I mean, you have the more interesting story from the weekend, as you had your first sampling of Korean healthcare.
Yeah, I did. Well, it was an interesting weekend, and also very uninteresting, because I spent most of it lying on my back on the couch because my back was broken. But I did get to go to the hospital, and it was lovely. First,
I mean, the moment that you phrased it as get to go to the hospital, which usually is a thing of terror. The fact that you phrased it so positively led me to believe that you had a good experience.
Oh, it was fantastic. Spoke brilliant English. Everyone was really nice to me. I don't know. I felt really taken care of. It was good. It was good stuff. Would go back again. Tempted to, try and tweak a muscle in my back more often.
Well, let's talk about the game for a second, because the Baron has at least started.
Oh, no.
Only a second, though, apparently.
Just for a moment. Pink Ward is still there by BBQ, and Crazy does have his teleport. Tempt as well is with the old teleport Corki that we've been seeing more and more of.
So I feel like when we do caster prep, usually it's about KDAs and stats, but maybe we should just be doing stand-up prep.
Yeah, I feel like
714.
We should be doing prep more about not the game. Playing himself some football is crazy. Not exactly the best at it this time around, is Bless looking for Dragon number 3, 2 Oceans, and a Cloud Drake. The perfect epitomization of this game. I
mean, there's big health bars, so you're going to get more regen from your regen.
Let's talk about the tank meta synergy with Ocean Drake, shall we?
I mean, it doesn't have much synergy with Infernal.
That's true. That's going to be the least good buff. That's going to be, once again, the 50-50 being controlled as ADD gets turned on, but who cares? Because he takes about no damage. Maha finally found his ultimate button. Cosmic Radiance, another option, is there's no damage being done to Tempt, and enough to actually get a kill as Beyond picks that one up. Justice Punch onto Totoro, and he gets taunted in the end after flashing out of the way. Doesn't have Unbreakable Will anymore, and he may also fall down as Maha gets his first kill of this particular engagement, and MVP win themselves a fight 2-0.
Yeah, slow team fight win for MVP. Remember, Blast did get the smite on the Ocean Drake, but MVP are running straight to Baron. That would be a much bigger receipt than 2 kills to prosper from their team fight victory. But now just visiting mid lane. I mean, ADD certainly knows what's up.
Yeah.
Rushes straight and home guards onto the Baron. Now remember, Bless is alive, so this is not as trivial a take as you might think.
Yep, Ghost is going to make his way in there as well, as there's the knock-up onto the Cho'Gath. Maybe not the optimal engaged target, as Beyond almost dies underneath the turret. As here's all the CC, here's all the tanks, and Max is dead. Unfortunately, it's Maha pulling out the sticks, and he's going to be able to pick up the Cho'Gath as we go 1-for-1, but it could have been a Baron instead. BBQ are going to find the fight back. ADD moves out of the way of the curtain call, and the Sap Magic is doing work. Tempt gets slowed down by a billion different things, and now we've got the Benny Hill music. Yakety sax once again. Papa Smithy as ADD can knock himself back in. I believe that was Tempt that turned that one around, as the Roots were after them, but it just did not do anything.
So we're able to clean up, and now we spoke about Baron on the side of MVP, overextended in mid lane, trying to get the turret, trying to get another advantage, and BBQ, who started the Baron a moment ago, will rush there, just like was the case for MVP. The enemy jungler is up, so there's not 100% guarantee this will be claimed.
And they're not doing a lot of damage to it this time around. Of course, BBQ with a bit more damage than the likes of MVP.
Beyond is 1v4. He should not be able to steal this Baron.
Yeah, his tunnel is down, and he doesn't have flash, and now he's getting knocked up and eaten. Okay, that's not going to be the Baron going over to MVP, and it is going to be locked down once again by Crazy. Gets himself the kill, starting to get massive. And the big boy tanks are really starting to turn it on BBQ's side as well.
I very much liked how you narrated Rek'Sai's death. It sounded like a diary entry. Dear diary, I was knocked up and eaten. Feels bad, man. As we go back to what happened at the start here, MVP walking up under turrets because we're all tanks, why not? But during the course of all of this, Ghost is able to get more shots off than you might expect. Crazy gets those big combos that are possible with the health ratio on the true damage from the Cho'Gath. True damage pretty relevant when everyone's a super tank.
Oh yeah.
They weren't able to clean up everyone. They didn't have vision on the actual squishies who were able to walk out of the range of the curtain call. Let's watch here as Tempt forces AD's death. Catch it during the moment. I assume it was the ranged auto attacker hitting the blast cone. It was. Very nice.
Yes. Thankfully, it wasn't the Maokai, which kind of looked like. Also, I just want to make sure people understand that we need contextual relevance to the thing that you just said before about Rek'Sai's death.
Look, at this point,
that diary entry was not a great one outside of League of Legends context.
At this point, if you cribbed some of the things we'd said on broadcast and pasted them onto other things, we'd look very dodgy. We're all serial killers, talking about murder, death, celebrating 4 or 5 people dying at the same time by the hands of one person.
That is very, very true. MVP now trying to defend against this
We're A-ramming Atlas.
They're not taking a lot of damage, Papa Smithy.
But we're all in mid lane. 10 members in mid lane.
Look at how little damage they're doing to the turret. Okay. BBQ may want to rethink this particular plan of attack. Might be something like a 1-3-1 that could be utilized with multiple Baron buff locations. ZDD throwing footballs around once again. Look at him charge.
Why not A-ram Atlas?
Well, it looks like ARAM is going to be the decision, and MVP are going to back themselves away. So BBQ edging towards that 10,000 gold lead here at 30 minutes in. Want to take down this inhibitor turret. Ghost doesn't find the snare.
Unfortunately, Tempt can't walk up for auto attacks, and Ghost not the best taking turrets either. ADD, bit of a love tap onto the Alistar.
Yep. Totoro takes about 0 damage.
The big problem is,
potential engage.
With Tempt's teleport down, none of the people that can side lane really do damage to turrets that fast, and if they're not there, then the Wombo engage might take down their 1 DPS dealer because they're not there to peel either.
There's a chain CC. They send the Galio into the fight, though. May not necessarily be the target to focus, but he does take a lot of damage. There's the roots heading forward, as it's not going to stop Ghost from setting up this curtain call. I mean, it doesn't do a heck of a lot of damage, but Maha moves himself out of the way. Everybody else tunneling their way out. But look, it's just creating enough zone, and BBQ take down the inhibitor turret, and the inhibitor will follow immediately after.
Yeah, objectives still die at the same rate, and that is really the variable we have to embrace. BBQ able to zone MVP away, force a recall. Fate's Call and Cosmic Radiance just will not be used, it seems, with any regularity in this particular game.
I mean, don't use them this game. You've already lost. May as well hold on to them for next game, Papa Smithy.
I made the joke before. It's still funny now, Atlas. That lets you know how this game has gone for the bot lane of MVP. Much more difficult to pick up Kalista on the red side. BBQ, they've broken the base on their first Baron, which against tanks with strong wave clear is not a trivial factor. The next one should be able to close up the game.
They are at least setting up vision around the area. They have a Baron buff for another couple of minutes. Now with bottom inhibitor, definitely a good avenue for collecting the Baron.
And the incentive for side lane play is much higher now for BBQ because they will have teleport back on Tempt very soon. So not like either of these teams have been super proficient at playing side lanes. So again, the game plan seen here is also a product of some of the macro struggles of both these teams before the tank meta and then exacerbated by the start of the tank meta, but with teleport on Corki, a lot more options to play those side lanes. But why not just roll down one lane?
Yeah, let's just make use of the fact that MVP are out of position. Ian gets knocked up to high heaven. That tower is going to fall down. Ghost doing the last hit, but getting a lot of that damage in as well as Max gets stunned by the Deadly Flourish. They got a fair bit of poke damage as well as Tempt. He's looking for it, gets the flash, and the Trinity Force proc is going to be enough. They'll secure the turret as well, as ADD's going to turn up late. Remember, this is a 4 versus 5. Make that a 5 versus 3. As BBQ are just looking to clean up MVP and grab the Game 1 victory. At least one kill is going to go down, and it is Ghost. So a lot of the damage now missing, but Tempt is there. Grabs himself the last remaining kill. That's the ace, and that should be BBQ taking it towards the Nexus turret.
Yeah, 4 tanks standing on a carry means that no one can click on Tempt. He lives. Rest of MVP goes down. They're going to be able to roll down. They can definitely tank up turrets, Atlas. It's the tank meta, and we should have a game 1 victor. It'll be BBQ.
And Bless looked terrifying with that gargoyle stone plate, man. He looks like this scary insect, like a cicada about to shed his skin. And he was taking about 0 damage there as well, as the Nexus slowly but surely will be taken down as they tank up fountain lasers as well. BBQ, after what was a disappointing performance against Samsung, turn it all around against MVP and pick up their first victory against the team for this season.
And MVP had the right read of tanks, and they looked at KT Rolster's comp yesterday and thought they could do an impression, but because they are not as good at the early game as KT, and really only Longzhu can hold a candle to KT, predictably it got to the point where with multiple damage sources and some good decision making, BBQ were able to pick up the first Baron. That was really the factor that led up to an actual appreciable advantage for BBQ. They broke the base in one spot, rolled down the top lane, and from there, victory achieved by BBQ Olivers.
Yeah, and it was just executed well at the same time. I mean, micro circumstances maybe not necessarily as much. However, their ability to move around the map, capitalize on advantages. BBQ was playing it pretty much by the numbers, made it look a whole lot better, and see whether the Cho'Gath gets a look at in the next pick and ban phase, because he wasn't doing a lot of dying towards the end of that game.
No one dies too fast in this meta, especially with picks like Jhin and Kalista being 2 of the 3 damage dealers next to a Corki. First sighting of Cho'Gath, you have to say, a pretty big success. Ran at the Kalista, silence, Nom. Kalista's day is over, and that was another reason why the last fight for BBQ was so clean.
Yeah. Certainly worked out very, very well. Ghost as well needs another shout out. The Doran's Ring Jhin really taking control of that early game. We'll see exactly what is going to happen game number 2. MVP, can they turn it around, or is BBQ going to go for the 2-0? We'll find out after this short break.